This video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you're looking to build your art portfolio website or online store to sell your work, check out Squarespace. They have marketing tools and analytics, so you can build a beautiful online presence and run your business.
Did you have an art mentor?
I did. Tyrone Jeter, when I went off to college, he basically showed me how to illustrate. I was drawing comics. I drew from comics. And he says, well, the stuff is good, but you don't understand anatomy. And it's because you're drawing from a comic book. And you're honestly drawing from someone else's interpretation, not from the literal depiction of the form. Like drawing from the actual figure.
Right.
And that's what he taught me, drawing from the figure.
Okay.
So that I can come up with and discover my own voice and be able to create my own visual style from that point. Once I learned the foundation, the rules, I was then able to elaborate that and create the style, because style is nothing more than interpretations from the grounded information.
Yeah. How did you get him to mentor you?
Well, he's my teacher, so yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
you took classes with him.
Yeah,
Got it.
I paid for that.
You paid for the mentorship.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Did you have an art mentor?
I've had mentors over the years. So back in the day when I was starting out, I took some classes in a private art studio. And my mentor then, his name is Karl, back in Bulgaria. So that was a long time ago. He helped me with foundation. So taught me all the stuff about academic drawing. So that was initially my goal, was to be a professional painter in Bulgaria and go to the Art Academy of Bulgaria. And then when I decided to go with animation, I had amazing mentors at school. And I tell mentors, I mean professors who are really influential. I would call that a mentor, like someone who you just know is a positive influence on your work. There I studied under Mike Mitchell and Cornicle, who are incredible. Again, if you are not familiar with their work, please check them out. Are you laughing? This is not funny. This is serious talk.
Nice.
And he broke my train of thought.
What animated world would you want to live in?
Anything Miyazaki. Anything with just delicious animated food. Oh my goodness, please, take me there.
Nice. Did you have an art mentor?
Oh yeah, it's not even just an art mentor, it's mentors in general. You know, that word of mentorship, I actually don't take very lightly. So when I have students or people coming up to me asking, will you be my mentor? I actually say no, I can't do that for you, because the word of mentorship is deeper for me than just an instructor and a student. It's a relationship that you build with an individual with a common understanding of what we can bond to as just humans and people. My mentors have been more than just artists. They've been people like language teachers, just instructors, just people every day. So I've had mentors ever since high school, and every year from that point, I've always connected to somebody. And my biggest mentor was from Art Center. Norm Sherman was my last mentor before he passed away. He was actually killed in 2010. And that's why Art Center came to me asking if I would take over his legacy and continue the class that I teach now, which has been 10 years. So the mentor honestly is a very important aspect, and I'm sure many of you and students realize that, but it's not a common everyday occurrence, and I understand how difficult it is to find people like this, so I don't take it for granted. I also understand how important that part of it, so I don't let it go. But that's why I'm giving back now. I'm in the position to help people, but at the same time, when people are requesting it, I don't do it. It's more of a natural connection that has to happen, and I'm willing to then give that time to that person. I truly believe in that part.
Nice. Did you have an art mentor?
No, I didn't. I kind of regret that though. I guess I never found someone, or I never had the courage to ask someone to help me out. I think for a while I was a little egotistical about it. I expected somebody to just see me and be great, and then I would make it sort of thing, and that's not how it works. You know, there have been people making great art before you. You know, whoever you are, there's been people making better art before you. And they have a lot of tips and tricks that can like really save you a lot of struggle through the years.
Did you have an art mentor?
I didn't really have an art mentor. What they did have though, I had a teacher in school who was very inspiring because he was so strict. He wasn't as much a mentor as like an eye-opener where it was the first time I met someone who really considered art as a job. And I love the fact that there was discipline to it, and when you were done, you could leave. So that was one thing. And then when I started working in the animation industry, I worked with those three guys, Shal White, David Daniels, and Ray DiCarlo. It was a startup company we were at, and they were incredibly strong work ethics people. They just worked really, really hard. And they're not necessarily mentor, but they were definitely like people that just propelled me into like what I do today.
Awesome, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
That was great. Did you have an art mentor?
No.
No?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
I mean, I look at everybody as a mentor, but passively, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the thing. I never wanted to kind of be a burden to somebody to be like that. It's like when they're ready to talk to me, then I let that be the gauge of the next level.
Yeah, cool.
My stuff can be found, on Instagram and Facebook, but Sean Galloway Art on Instagram or tabletaffy_studios.
Did you have an art mentor?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few. You go through phases. Back when I was in like high school and the internet was young, I came across this French artist who did kind of an anime style. I only know him as Shonen, which in Japanese it's just like boy or whatever. So it's a very general name. I don't know what his actual name is. That was his username. But he just did like these cool sketch manga style comics of like a fantasy RPG world, even before like Sword Art Online and those kind of animes. So he was an influence to show like, here's just this guy and I love his style, and I started emulating that. Much more recently, getting into concept art and illustration, I did a mentorship with Anthony Jones, which was
through like Patreon or?
He's like on everything, every platform at this point, but that was when he was just on YouTube and on Facebook, and that's how I came across him. And then he advertised, hey, through Gumroad, he'd give you kind of a loose assignment to do based on things you wanted to do, and then he'd help kind of direct you through it and show you what the real industry process is like. That was my first experience, because up until then it was just me in a room making art and convincing people I was legit. He actually kind of gave a backbone to my process and everything. While being really good about not pushing his way upon you too much, just really helping you find your way in a way that you can actually work with. Scott Flanders is one of my good friends, and he also was a bit of like a influence and mentor to me in a bit. I worked on a board game called Dreadbound, and that was my first experience doing like creature design. And he's all about creatures. He loves that stuff. He's at Riot too, of course, and we're actually doing some sculpting project stuff together now. But he helped me through a lot of that project, and he's kind of kept up with me to kind of like we check in with each other and see how we're doing. So yeah, those are the most like kind of hands-on mentors I have.
Sweet.
My name is TJ Geisen. It's just like that on ArtStation. I also go by Geist Rock.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
thank you very much.
It's an honor.
Do you have an art mentor?
Like I said before, Mobius and my teachers definitely, but I had one in college, I had one at Art Center. I was one of the last guys to train under Bert Hogarth, who taught me to paint with a brush. He was extremely interesting. He was a harsh guy, severe personality. He'd come up behind people without them knowing while they're drawing and grab their hand and go, I said blacker and just push their pencil through the paper and freak people out. But I wasn't scared of the guy. And we used to do lunches together every lunch on Mondays, that when the class was, 9-hour classes. And I'd go do lunch with him, we'd talk about comic books and gun control and all kinds of fun stuff. And we'd argue, and he was scary to everybody else. But to me, he was like very intelligent and very deep. And he was really, really interested in making people draw well. He really wanted to teach people, everyone. He wanted all his students to be able to draw better than him, which is the hallmark of a very good teacher. So he was fantastic, and he never gave me much trouble. We got along.
When I was doing caricatures at my theme parks, there was the guy who hired me, his name was Dave Camish, And he was a real mentor to me as far as really introducing me to the artists of MAD, but showed me so much work. And he was the guy that really helped me. My mentor in that sense through work came from me just being at school. I was just in a life drawing class and someone said, hey, they're hiring caricature artists. I went, then I applied. That's how I got to know about that, doing caricatures. And through that, my boss ended up being my mentor. But the thing is, as far as finding mentors, I think the most important thing to do nowadays is just ask. You know, there's a lot of professionals out there just offering this and can help you, and it's important to have professional eyeballs looking at your work to help take you to that next level. But if there's someone that you admire their work and you feel them to be an expert, that's the best thing to do in regards to getting a mentor, and just ask. The worst they're gonna do is say no.
Don't you mentor some people?
I do,
online?
yeah.
Through Patreon or where?
No, just through a Skype mentorship. It's part of a class session that I do where I'm mentoring people, where every Tuesday I'll mentor people for about 30 minutes at a time.
If people want to be part of that, do they just go on your website?
Yeah, if you want to be a part of it, they just go into my website on silvertunes.com. It's called Face to Face. It's in my classes, and I just do it on Tuesdays between 9 and 11 a.m. and people just meet with me just to, from all over, just to go over their portfolio, get some better direction or understanding of their goals and their intentions of what they want to do. But I think it's a very important step in the process.
Nice. What superpower would be most useful to an artist?
Just speed. Really, that way you could just blow through any deadlines and just finish stuff and buy more time for yourself, so that you could just go and you're done, and it's just like now you got the rest of the day to do what you need. Speed.
Nice. Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, man.
Did I have an art mentor? Yes. Actually, when I was starting off my career, I wouldn't get any good work offers. In one of my lowest points, I emailed a couple of my favorite artists at the time. One of them was Dean Yeagle, another one was Steven Silva. And Dean Yeagle wrote back, said some really nice things and said, keep going, you could do it. You know, and my email was like, should I give up? This is what I'm doing right now. Do I have any hope? And so that was very nice to hear those kind words from Dean. And then Steven Silva just wrote, give me your number, I want to call you. And he never called, and so I felt quite depressed. But then 2 weeks later, he did call.
Oh, okay.
And he talked to me for over an hour, just telling me why it's all about the mindset. It's all about the passion and the motivation that will get you past that finish line to becoming a successful artist. I really took that to heart. And at the end of the conversation, I told him, you know what, today you changed my life. How could I ever repay you? And he said, you know, when it comes to a point in your life when you can give back to somebody else and we'll call it even.
Yeah, invite me to Lightbox Expo.
There you go. So it's been my kind of thing where I'm like going, okay, well now I'm trying to give back, and if any of the things that you get from Lightbox Expo or anything else that I might be involved in helps you, I'd say give back to 2 other friends and we'll call it even, I guess. Spread that positivity.
Nice. Did you have an art mentor?
One of my professors at Syracuse University in the illustration department, his name was Bob Dacey. I do consider him to be a mentor of mine. I did an independent study with him where I was doing like a graphic novel. I was developing a comic, and he really helped me sort of through some creative hurdles. I also had him for other classes, and Ian Miller is a mentor of mine, but not because, you know, we talked or he knew who I was till much later in my career, but because of his work. I mean, I would sit with his illustrations for hours and hours.
What do you think is the biggest thing you got out of that mentorship?
Bob encouraged me to not pull my punches when I had an idea for something. Sometimes I might hesitate or think maybe that's a little too weird or something like that. And you know, he always encouraged me to go for it, you know, like to push it further. A lot of times with creative endeavors, I find that it always helps to go a little bit too far, because chances are you are maybe overthinking things, and people's visual knowledge and sophistication is constantly growing, and the things that people look for is something that is eye-catching and something that draws them in, something that speaks to them. And I think if you're too timid about sounding off with your voice, your own personal voice, then you miss opportunities to really draw people into your work. So he really encouraged me to push the boundaries beyond what I thought was acceptable.
Did you have an art mentor?
I did have an art mentor. My teacher in college, his name is Jamie Frankie, and he actually designed like the nickel and knew some coins for the mint. He always had my back. He was always telling me, you know, that just keep doing what I'm doing. And especially in art school, they were very like looking down at illustration kind of, and not really like promoting the comic book type of artwork. It was more like the fine art stuff, and I was more into the illustrative stuff, and he always pushed me to go through with that and see where that will take me. And I'm really thankful for him to kind of like being, besides my parents who were always very supportive, he was sort of like another parent figure for me in college, and so he really helped me kind of be where I am today.
The first mentor was my father, because he's art teacher, sculptor and painter. He's still now, every time I show him my work, he still tells me, oh, this is wrong, so you have to change this so you can make better. And when I was a kid, I was very inspired by his art, because he loves to do like surrealistic stuff. And after him, I just studied by myself. So everything I did by myself. So I'm self-taught. Okay.
Did you have an art mentor?
No, I've never had an art mentor. Nobody's mentored me. I went to uni, but I thought everyone would go, oh, this guy's quite good at painting, but in actual fact, they told me to do abstract. Okay. Tried it, hated it. I went way off the rails, grew dreadlocks, became a hermit. Came out the other side with a bit more kind of
So
drive.
that's what happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a 7-year period that I don't really remember. It's probably best I don't really. And there's very few photographs as well. No photographic evidence.
What animated world would you want to live in?
Animated world.
Yeah.
Quite like Adventure Time. Looks a fun place. I think I'd like to go there.
Did you have an art mentor?
Yes, I worked for Todd McFarlane for a while, and he was the best teacher I ever got. I can't say that his style is something that I try to copy or learn, but the way he approached art is what really made him the best teacher I've had, because of how he sees art, how he approaches art, how he adapts with art. I think I learned a lot from that. More than just the specific, like how to draw the hand or how to do certain things. It's the attitude and the concept of how he approaches art.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned most from Todd, and telling a story, how to, effectively, give a comic book experience to the readers and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and how did you get that mentorship?
He was looking for the next artist to take over Spawn 8 years ago. And Bryan, the one who discovered me in the first place, was his editor-in-chief at that point, and says, do you want to do it? It's a very good gig, and Todd's a great teacher, and come over, and it was right, and Todd is very vocal about what he wants to see on the book, and he would sit you down and say, okay, this is how we do this, okay? It was a great experience.
Awesome. Did you have an art mentor?
I really didn't. I'm pretty much self-taught. I was accepted at Art Center out of high school, some scholarships for that, but I knew they worked kids real hard back then, so this was like early 80s, and a lot of the guys who came out of there kind of looked the same a little bit back then, and I went to film school instead. So my only real professional art teacher was Roger Hubbard, who is a well-known illustrator, taught 3 classes at Loyola Marymount. I took all 3. He was one of those guys that, because when you're trying to be an artist, especially back then, because there wasn't that much information around, you didn't know what pieces, how they were done. What is this? Is this oils? Is this acrylics? Is this colored pencils? Is this gouache? What is this? And he was a guy that could take the California workbook, which used to be the old book that'd go around, all the illustrators would have their ads in it. I'd be able to hand it in front of him, open it up. What's that? That's gouache on matte medium, on illustration board. Great. Okay, I could go play, right? Okay, that's hatchboard with this kind of a quill. Great, because he was an illustrator, and the great thing about Illustrator, especially back then, is you could do any technique, any style, because you were a professional illustrator. That's what you were hired to do. One day you do cartoons, one day you do photoreal, one day you do Bernie Fuchs wash style, and he was just amazing for that.
Do you maybe have advice for people trying to find a mentor, or maybe have you mentored people?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of people who I've brought into the industry and trained. I was very lucky to start in comics at Homage Studios. And Homage Studios was Top Cow, Wildstorm, all in one open air plan studio. So you had the best of the best in that studio. So you could walk around and watch Scott Williams ink, the best inker in the world, right? You walk behind Mark Silvestri while he's penciling a page. Walk behind Jim Lee while he's penciling a page, And there was Joe Chido, who used to do the color guides for most of the Image line. Super talented painter. I learned so much from him. And then, starting to work with Todd McFarlane, I got to absorb everything from Todd McFarlane. Greg Capullo was there when I was editor-in-chief, and I got to suck in everything from Greg. So it's really also about not being a jerk and being able to go and hang out with people and them showing you stuff, So a lot of times people get too pushy with it and stuff like that. If you're patient and you're not a jerk, just hang out and, be cool. I mean, like these guys over here are doing these great drawings, and they wouldn't be angry if you said, can I watch you draw? They'll say, yeah. And you can ask them what tools they're using, what paper they're using, the whole 9 yards.
Who's your cartoon crush?
Wilma.
From
Flintstones.
Why?
Like redheads.
Okay.
She seemed pretty sensible and,
And what animated world would you want to live in?
Herculoids. It was old school Gleep and Gloop, old school Hanna-Barbera, sci-fi. So I want to ride dinosaurs with Wilma at my side.
Nice. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
State your name.
My name is Marshall Vandruff.
Occupation.
Art instructor.
Where can they find your work?
And my website, marshallart.com.
All right. Did you have an art mentor?
No, I did not have an. Hey, Kaveh, get your face in here just for a moment. This is Kaveh Taherian, one of the finest human beings on the planet. He hates everybody, but he loves me. So that's why his love means something.
The only one worth loving.
Yes. I hardly had an art mentor. The closest person to an art mentor to me was not really my mentor, but he did give me time. It was Drew Struzan, and Drew Struzan pointed me toward what I needed to learn to become a better professional. And he did give me his time to say, here's what you should master. It was technique, draftsmanship, anatomy and perspective and rendering, composition. He was the one who clarified those categories of mastery for me.
Did you study with him?
I spent a week with him in a workshop, and then he gave me time after that. When I was first a teacher, put together the class drawing from the masters, Drew gave me advice on what should be in that class. So yes, that's why I say he was the closest that I had to a mentor. Out of a total of maybe 6 or 7 hours of talking with him, but it was very concentrated time over a period of years.
Nice. Did you have an art mentor?
I had a few, but the biggest one would be Jeff Watts. I still work for him and with him to this day. He's one of my best friends, and for the last 25 years or so, or 20 years, he's kind of been there with me every step of the way. Even when we've not necessarily agreed on things, he's always been there to support me, and it's valuable to have someone that you look up to that also supports you along the way, and is more than a teacher, but also a really good friend.
For people who are looking for a mentor, do you have any advice of finding one that's good?
Man, finding a mentor, that's a tough one because I think often it's something that happens organically. I don't know that you can necessarily go out searching for a mentor, or you can go out searching, but it's not necessarily going to work out the way that you think it's going to work out. Often the people that you admire for their work, you don't always admire them as people once you've met them. So it's a tough one. So I guess the goal would be find the type of field that you want to go into, find someone who does it well, and then amongst those people that you find that do it well, find one that you resonate with and that you can get along as much as friends as co-workers and as teacher and student. Almost, it's like a marriage. I mean, it's a lot like a marriage. You know, just that initial attraction isn't enough. You also have to find a deeper friendship in that if it's going to be a long-lasting marriage. Same way with a mentorship.
What animated world would you want to live in?
Venture Brothers. So the Venture Brothers world would be the one I'd want to live in.
I should have been able to guess that one. You're down to Venture. Okay. Did you have an art mentor?
I had several art mentors. While I was still in art school, I got hired by Russ Manning to work as his assistant on the Tarzan of the Apes Sunday and daily newspaper strips. We also did 3 graphic novels together. Russ was a very patient guy. He introduced me to Japanese prints. I was completely unaware of Japanese prints until I started working for Russ. He was exposed to them when he was in the Navy and stationed in Japan. Not only did he teach me how to be a consummate professional, but he also showed me how to be a really good father. I observed the way he was with his kids, and it had a lasting effect on me. Another 2 guys that influenced me were Harvey Kurtzman and Willie Elder. I was doing stories for Cycletoons, and I did a story that was sort of a tribute to Kurtzman, Elder, and Wally Wood. And when it was published, I sent them copies of the magazine, and I got a letter back from Harvey Kurtzman asking me if I would like to come back to New York to assist them on Little Annie Fanny for Playboy. And I learned an enormous amount from both Kurtzman and Elder. Frazetta was another mentor. Mobius was a powerful mentor. And I studied privately with Hal Kramer. He was the head of the illustration department at Chenard, and I studied privately with him for over 20 years. I took figure painting with him, but I also took landscape painting with him, and he had a nice policy. If he'd let me bring in any projects that I was working on, and he would critique them, and he was one of the best critique instructors that I've ever experienced. I always learned something from him, and he always found ways to make my work better. I tell my students that if I want someone to tell me my work is great, I'll show it to my mom. She never fails. But it doesn't do me any good as an artist. It doesn't make me a better artist. It's if you can find a peer that you respect and get their advice, boy, that's gold. That's really fantastic.
And I'm just curious, did you have any mentors before you became a professional and started working in the industry, or was it people you worked with mostly?
I didn't have any mentors before I became a professional because I became a professional during art school. Now, Hal Kramer, who I just mentioned, was one of my best instructors. But the way I became an artist is sort of interesting because I was going to be a doctor. I was a science math major in high school. But when I was in the 5th grade, my teacher caught me drawing in class when I should have been listening. And instead of punishing me, he said, "Do you have any more drawings like that?" I think I was drawing some dinosaurs. And the kid next to me says, "Oh, you should see it. He's got a whole book of them. He's got books of monsters and all kinds of stuff." And the teacher said, "Would you bring that book in so I could see it?" I said, "Sure." I was just happy not to be in trouble for not listening. So the next day I brought in the book. I guess he recognized my artistic talent, and he began to assign me extracurricular activities involving art. He'd say, "Bill, I think the class needs a chart of the human skeleton. Could you draw that up for us?" So I was like, "Oh yeah." So I'd draw that up. "Bill, I think the class needs a chart of the human musculature system." So I'd draw that up, a cross-section of the human eye, cross-section of the ear, because he knew I wanted to be a doctor. What I didn't realize is I was teaching myself anatomy by doing that. So it was fantastic. I dedicated my first book to that teacher, my first dinosaur book. As part of the dedication, I said, "One man can make a difference."
Wow, that's cool.
Being an artist, it does help to have an art mentor to help you out and show you the ropes. One thing you won't need a mentor for is setting up a website with Squarespace. Squarespace is a great way to get a professional website up and running without the hassle of learning HTML and CSS coding. No matter what level you're at, getting your work online is the best way to jumpstart your career in the industry. And Squarespace makes it easier than ever, letting you import your work directly from Twitter, Instagram, and other platforms. Their sites automatically scale from desktop to mobile viewers, so you can worry about the art you're making and not the website formatting issues. And Squarespace has 24/7 email support from actual humans in Squarespace's offices, who typically respond within 1 hour. Squarespace has a bunch of portfolio site designs to give your webpage that professional look. So if all that inspires you to stop procrastinating and start on that website you've always wanted, check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And if you like what you see, go to squarespace.com/Proko to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video, and thank you to all the artists who shared the wisdom on the Comic-Con floor. Do you have an art mentor? If so, how did you find them? And do you have any tips for other artists who are looking for one? Drop a line in the comments to let us know. And if you haven't done it yet, ring that bell icon and hit the like button. It supports the channel and helps other people see this video. We've got one more of these videos left, so check in next time.